Please? Oh, thank you. Thank you to my support crew for starting the recording. I made a mental note this morning, Juliet, do not forget to click the record button. And as usual, I dive in and clean forget to click record. And either Mark or Javed rescues me every time. So thank you, gentlemen, for that. uh, Before we have a look at the outcomes for today's session, I would like each of you to put in the chat what your expectations are. Even as you look at the outcomes for this session that are on the screen right now, what did you come expecting to learn? Maybe expecting even to share with us, your colleagues? Everyone writing simultaneously in the chat now. Thank you, Marla. And we use a first name basis in my webinars. I'm Juliet, and if you don't mind, I'll be using your first name unless you indicate otherwise. So let's light up the chat now. I'm seeing so far we have Marla commenting, Karelma, no expectations, more refresher. Okay, well, thank you for joining for the refresher. It's usually a refresher for me as well, because like I was sharing with Dr. Hill, who is unable to join us this morning, he is busy with another priority activity this morning, but sends his regards. Every time I do a webinar, even if it is a repeat webinar, I try to change it up a bit. I never do any lesson or any class or any session exactly as I had done it before. That's just how I'm wired. And it's also because after each session, I learn a little more about what I'm doing, and I learn a little more from the feedback you have been sharing, that the participants over time have been sharing with us and with me at the CETL. So we covered your feedback. I know that Mark usually would share a link for the evaluation form, and we ask you, we plead with you, we implore you to complete that as well. We'll try to manage our time so that we can allocate a few minutes at the end of the session to the completion of that evaluation form. That's how we improve our craft, by constructive feedback. And we ask you to be very honest in your feedback. Indicate what you felt worked, what might not have worked, any suggestions for improvement. You can share also out of your own fount of knowledge concerning the topic. We are constructing knowledge together as colleagues here in higher education. So we welcome your input. One other thing that Dr. Hill asked me to negotiate with you is that we can go on for half an hour longer than has been advertised. This session is carded to run and has been advertised as such from 9:30 to 12 noon. However, if there are any persons who wish to have the session extended by at least a half hour so that we have a full 3-hour session, please indicate. Those of you who have other engagements, other commitments, and you have to exit, you can slip out. So I will ask Mr. Garcia if he is still available, if he can put the link for the evaluation form in the chat and have it there, so that if he has to step away, it's already there. And if anyone has to exit the session before 12:30 or before 12, for good reason, we implore you, we encourage you to stay the course. We don't want you to miss out on good discourse among colleagues. You can copy the link and complete the form um, later on. Thank you. Before I move on, is there anything that anyone would like to say? Andrea, would you like to unmute your mic to tell us what your expectations are for this session? And then I will call your name as I read the chat and ask you to voice your expectation that you have shared in the chat. Thank you for doing that. And welcome to those who just joined. And thank you, team, for admitting those who were still in the waiting room after we started. So, Andrea, Andrea, are you there? You can unmute. Okay, maybe Andrea isn't able to unmute at the moment. Karelma, you can unmute and share with us what you mentioned in the chat very quickly. Karelma, are you there? What about Marla?
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
So what I had included in the chat was
Yes,
really to improve the delivery of my courses that I
yes.
teach. But there's a particular emphasis that I'm interested in, which
Mhm.
is, I don't know if you're going to cover it in terms of assignments as well, because I have very large classes. One of my classes, like 210 students every year. Um,
Yes.
so with that many people, I want to be sure that I could connect with each one of them in a way where they could understand the material and I could properly align the learning outcomes for them. So, there's better engagement.
Okay, beautiful. We do speak to assessments, so I'm hoping that your expectation would be met. We could always talk a little more at the end of the session or maybe after 12. Some persons might need to leave at 12, but if you are able to stay on, we could discuss as well. So, or you could always reach out to me and we could explore that area you just highlighted with your specific need in more depth, maybe in a one-on-one. So let's see how it goes. And by the end of the workshop, you will know whether or not what was shared responds to that particular need that you have at present. But CETL is always here to support. So feel free to reach out. Okay, not a problem at all. So you can send an email or you can call the office afterwards, or we can probably treat with that during the last half hour of today's session. So I hope that helps. Marla, thanks for sharing.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Andrea, you there now? What about Nagumutu? Very interesting name. Can you unmute so we hear your voice? Okay, what about Deborah?
Hi, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, Deborah, we're hearing you.
Right. So, I'm in the humanities, and over the past maybe 2 years, with the availability of generative AI to my students, I found that the current assessments that we have um, are not exactly working the way that we would want them to.
Yes,
So, I'm hoping to find a strategy. I'm
yes.
in the process of restructuring my assessments for my courses. So I'm hoping to learn some strategies to help me with that process.
All right, beautiful. Well, I think you're in the right workshop today. And
Okay.
at the end, hopefully, your expectation would have been met. All right, so thanks for sharing, Deborah. Who else? Nagamutu? What about you, Jade? Jade was here bright and early. Jade, are you able to unmute and just share something about your expectations for this session today? Just briefly. Okay,
Good
okay,
morning.
great.
Sorry about
Yes,
that. Just want to learn about different instructional activities in general.
yes. All right, great. Thank you very much. Anyone else before we move on? All right, let's move on. So, in the focus in today's session, aligning learning outcomes with instructional activities. Upon completion of this webinar, you will be able to, one, articulate the background and importance of aligning learning outcomes to instructional activities. Two, examine some strategies for effectively aligning learning outcomes to instructional activities. Three, you'll be able to align learning outcomes to instructional activities using specific criteria. And four, you will also be able to identify the principles of constructive alignment. Now, before we move ahead, we want to place everything that we are doing within a context. The context of the campus educational philosophy here at the St. Augustine campus of the UWI. So the St. Augustine campus creates a learning community and nurtures the emancipation of the human spirit through an active and inclusive learning environment. And we strive to do that in all of our sessions, face-to-face workshops, webinars, podcasts, etc. If you follow CETL's activity closely, you will see evidence of how the CETL is implementing this and operationalizing this philosophy. The campus philosophy also speaks to developing a culture of inquiry, equity, and justice, a culturally and socially responsive pedagogy. And we have also paid attention to this in today's session. An eclectic and socially relevant research culture, an integrated curriculum with opportunities for creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship, authentic and engaging learning and assessment methods, and an informed feedback on teaching and learning. So you see where the feedback component, it works both ways. We also need that feedback from you. Now, I do have an acknowledgement here that not extensively, but in some instances, AI was used to generate some of the resources in this presentation in the webinar. Let's have a look at this short video. We're going to have a little discussion about it, so let's pay close attention.
Most construction failures don't happen by accident. They happen because of small mistakes people ignore. First, poor soil testing. If the ground is weak, the whole structure is already in danger. Second, wrong measurements. Just a few millimeters off, and the entire alignment is ruined. Third, bad quality materials. Cheap cement, weak steel, you save money today, but risk everything tomorrow. And the big one, ignoring curing. Concrete looks strong, but without proper curing, it's actually fragile. Here's the truth. Structures don't fail instantly. They give warnings, cracks, deflection, small signs. But people ignore them until it's too late. So next time you see a construction site,
Okay, folks, no one told me, the secretary just told me, Kimberly just told me, you are actually not seeing the video. So I'm going to share it again. It's okay to unmute your mic and comment. So I'll start it again. Tell me, please, if you are seeing it now. If you're okay, are you seeing it now? Can anyone tell me if you're seeing it now? All right. I'm
Yes.
sorry about that. I didn't know that you weren't able to see on your end. All right. So let's continue.
remember, it's not the big things, it's the small mistakes that destroy everything. Subscribe for more content like this.
Okay, so I'm going to run it from the start again. It's just a minute and a few seconds long. So I'm going to run it again.
Most construction failures don't happen by accident.
Are you hearing and seeing?
We're hearing, but the video is still stuck.
Oh, it's still stuck.
Yeah.
All right, let me see what's causing that. When I checked it this morning. All right.
They happen because
Are you seeing now?
Yes.
All right, thanks for that.
most construction failures don't happen by accident. They happen because of small mistakes people ignore. First, poor soil testing. If the ground is weak, the whole structure is already in danger. Second, wrong measurements. Just a few millimeters off, and the entire alignment is ruined. Third, bad quality materials. Cheap cement, weak steel, you save money today, but risk everything tomorrow. And the big one, ignoring curing. Concrete looks strong, but without proper curing, it's actually fragile. Here's the truth. Structures don't fail instantly. They give warnings, cracks, deflection, small signs. But people ignore them until it's too late. So next time you see a construction site, remember, it's not the big things. It's the small mistakes that destroy everything. Subscribe for more content like this.
Okay. Unmute very quickly, and we'd like to ask about 2 or 3 persons to comment on what you just saw. Of what relevance might this video be to today's topic? And while you're chatting, I'll just get back to the PowerPoint. Yes. Anyone? Anyone? No brave persons with us this morning? Okay, let's have a discussion on this prompt. What happens when there's misalignment in construction? Let me ask an easier question. What happens when there's misalignment in construction? Do we have any engineers in our midst this morning? Or from your own general knowledge? I don't like calling on people's names. Oh, I saw another of my colleagues here at CETL join. Folks, I don't know if you've met him as yet. We have Dr. Christopher Francique, who is the other faculty development specialist on our team here at CETL. So, Dr. Francique, do you want to say a quick hello to the participants so that they can see who you are? You can unmute and let them see you. This is Dr. Christopher Francique.
Morning, everybody. Morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining.
No problem.
All right. Okay, great. Yes, so anyone, what happens when there's misalignment? Does anyone care to mention something? Someone put a comment in the chat. Let's see. Students may get confused. Okay, you're responding to the first question I asked, which is, of what relevance might this video be to the topic at hand? And Karelma says, Karelma, you're being shy, you can unmute. Go ahead, Karelma, we want to hear your voice, and you can share with us your thought, which is an excellent one.
Oh, I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Just saying, I was just saying that I think, just in general, when I hear that there's misalignment, the students may decide to study or not prepare and be confused as to what exactly is expected. And eventually it can also come back to the lecture because when they don't get the grade that they want or that they think they deserve, if there is a misalignment, even though for us we gave the material and we taught, they said, well, that wasn't in the learning objectives, or I studied for this learning outcome, but that was not what was in the assignment, or something like that.
Excellent. Thank you. You made me want to respond to what Auntie Kay, a lady back then who ran a radio show with children singing and reciting poetry. She used to say, bravo, darling, bravo. So bravo, Karelma. Thank you for that. You're bang on target. So let's move on. We're always mindful of time. So in the physical realm of construction, some of the dangers of misalignment in construction are structural risk failure, as we saw in the video, reduced load-bearing capacity, increased material stress and fatigue, safety hazards to occupants and workers. We saw the workers literally running for their lives. Of course, we know that was good editing. But the idea was conveyed that their lives became at risk because of this building that was collapsing because of faulty construction, materials and methods, and costly repairs and maintenance. The amount of money that goes into construction, and if it fails, to have to get new materials and rebuild doubles, triples, or quadruples the original cost. So alignment, we see, is very important. So let's move on. So I asked about the construction analogy. Of what relevance is the video shown a while ago to our focus on aligning learning outcomes to instructional activities? Constructive alignment in education. And when we talk about aligning learning outcomes to instructional activities / assessments, we are speaking about constructive alignment. That's the term that is used in the literature. So constructive alignment in education can be compared to alignment in construction and engineering. A building depends on the proper alignment, as Karelma was just pointing out, of its foundation, support structures, and final design. But if one component is poorly aligned, the entire structure becomes unstable. And Karelma explained how this can work when it comes to designing our courses for instruction. So that in construction, when alignment fails, foundation shift, walls crack, measurements become inaccurate, structures become unsafe. The final product does not match the design intention, and even if expensive materials are used, poor alignment compromises the entire project. Now let's see the link, the connection of that analogy in construction in the real world to teaching and learning in higher education and education in general. And Karelma pointed out some things already. Students focus on the wrong skills. Assessments test unintended knowledge. And we as educators in higher education all know about the importance of validity in assessment. We cannot or ought not to assess what was not taught. Activities do not prepare students adequately. So we're seeing a connection between content taught, learning activities, and the focus on the kind of skills, competencies, knowledge, skills, and attitudes that are supposed to be the outcome of any given instructional event, or course of study. Lecturers receive unreliable evidence of learning. So we see how many inaccuracies can abound if we do not have, and I'm using the term repeatedly throughout this webinar, if we do not have constructive alignment in our teaching and learning design. Program standards weaken because, again, there's misalignment between the overarching aims, the overarching goals, and the course of instruction. And students may pass assessments without achieving the intended competencies. So constructive alignment invites us as lecturers, as educators, as teachers, to move from simply covering content to intentionally designing learning. And you can check the CETL website and you'll see the range of self-paced asynchronous courses available as well. You can also access those. My colleagues also run a series of webinars. Please try your best to access those, because the intention is ultimately for us to achieve excellence and to maintain excellence, to sustain excellence in teaching and learning. We're all continuing to hone our craft. As far as I'm concerned, a teacher can never say I reach. We're always learning because the world is evolving, technology is evolving, and there's always something new to learn to help us be on the cutting edge of teaching and learning. You are all here today because you recognize the importance of continuous professional development and lifelong learning. And we thank you for making the time. So let's look at this trilogy. Learning outcomes connected to learning activities, connected to assessments. This graphic represents constructive alignment. And of course, we understand that learning takes place within a context. Vygotsky speaks of the zone of proximal development. So what do we already know about learning outcomes? What do we already know about instructional activities? What do we already know about assessments? And what do we already know about alignment? So I'm going to put you now into breakout rooms. I'm going to assign automatically, and I am going to create 5 rooms, 6 rooms. Let's see how it works out. Some of the rooms mightn't be filled because some of us are CTL people, but that's okay. I'm going to create the room. You're going to be assigned automatically, and you are going to discuss, think about what you already know about learning outcomes, instructional activities, assessments, and alignment. And we are going to come back after 10 minutes. Let's make it 5 because really, we're dealing with persons who are cream of the crop, superior learners. So let's make it 5 minutes. A lot can be discussed in 1 minute. So I've created the rooms, I'm opening them all, and we have 5 minutes to discuss what are learning outcomes, what are instructional activities, what are assessments, is alignment, what we already know. So the rooms are open, just click and join a room, and in 5 minutes we come back, we have a plenary session, and we discuss and move on. Hi, folks. I'm going to close all the rooms now and we'll return to the plenary session. Okay, I think we are all back. I saw 10 persons joining early. I'm now seeing 7. Some people are still coming back in. So let's give them a minute or two again. Who is ASW? Could you unmute and let us know what your initials stand for, please? I'm seeing an ASW in our meeting, and thank you for sharing in the chat.
Hi, good morning, Miss Jones.
Hi.
I am actually Tanya Melanie Manet. So let me change my name. That's an account I use for work. So let
All
me change that
right.
name. But Tanya Melanie Manet is my full name.
Oh, okay. So hi, Tonya. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So everyone's back in now. While you were in your breakout rooms, I think I made most people co-hosts for an activity later down the road. I trust you. We are colleagues, so I can make everybody a co-host. It's not COVID, and I'm teaching a class at primary school, and they're doing all kinds of crazy things while the teacher is teaching. It's really good to be working along with colleagues. So those whom I have not as yet made co-host, I will do so because that becomes necessary for a group activity that you'll have to do later on. And everyone would be able to share the screen or something, or share video or something like that, or share a presentation, depending on what you come up with during your group activity. So I just wanted to make persons aware of that. I will go back and do the rest during our break. All right, so let's have a look. So Tanya, I'll ask you to start, please, seeing that we just heard your lovely voice. Let's hear what was discussed in the group. Did you join a group or are you simply contributing in the chat, which is appreciated? You
Okay, so
can go
because
ahead.
sure, good morning, everyone. So because I
Good
came
morning.
in late,
Yes.
I just popped up on that activity. So I contributed by adding my comments to the chat, not so much collaborating with the other colleagues. So that was just my contribution based upon what I saw when I came in.
Okay, could you read it for us, please?
Okay, sure.
Yes.
Um, I'm trying to navigate to get back into the chat.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so my first comment, I think what the question was asking, because I don't remember it now that the screen has turned, right? But it asks about what do you know about instructional activities, learning outcomes,
Yes.
alignment, and assessment. So um, in seeing that, I posted in the chat, is there, we can see there must be an alignment between learning outcomes, content, and assessment. That was my
Yes.
first comment, right?
Excellent.
The second comment is that learning outcomes are the expectations of the skills, the knowledge, and the attitudes that students are expected to perform at the end of learning. And then I added
Yes.
that assessment, according to Kane et al., has 4 purposes, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
it keeps educators and educational institutions accountable. It certifies students' learning, which is why students would enroll in a program to receive a certification at the end, right? Whether your master's, a degree, a certificate, whatever the case may be. It
Yes.
gives information about student learning That it helps
Yes.
us understand whether learning is taking place. It gives us information about whether students are grasping the content, right?
Yes.
And lastly, I said that it influences and informs instruction because it helps you now, the facilitator, readjust the instruction for the class. So those were my contributions.
Okay, let's get those emoticons going. Thumbs up for Tonya. She jumped in and hit the ground running. That was excellent. Thank you, Tonya. Excellent. So let's have someone else representing another of the groups. We had group two. We have Nagamutu, Karelma, Jade in group two as well. So what did you discuss in your breakout rooms? Very briefly. Thank you for keeping it succinct. Anyone else? Yes, go
Yes.
ahead,
We
please.
we mostly just talk about the how we structure the learning outcomes, and just we only had
Yes,
time to briefly mention that.
yes,
And Aru mentioned how he was a postgraduate instructor, so his was more into analytical, critic, analyzing outcomes, while I also teach more basic learning outcomes. So my learning outcomes are more towards describe this, list that, define. For some of my learning outcomes, at least, while his are higher order outcomes. We That's about all the time we had to discuss, much
that's
basically.
okay. What you discussed was also of the utmost importance. So let's show some appreciation. Excellent point. Let's show some love. Lovely. Thank you. And we also had in group three, in room three, Deborah and Marla.
Hi.
Hi.
So we discussed what we thought were learning outcomes, which is
Yes.
basically what we think the students are supposed to know at the end of the course. And it includes not just content knowledge, but in some courses, they have to develop particular skills, for example, in
Yes.
statistics and critical evaluation thinking. In terms
Yes.
of the instructional activities, that's where we thought the teaching strategies and the delivery methods that we use to bring across the content, and you could use a range of different strategies. So, for example,
Yes.
we both use class discussions. There's experiential learning activities that can be brought into the
Excellent.
classroom, something that could engage the student. In terms of the assessments, broadly, that's really determining whether or not the students understand the content that is being taught. And one of the things we discussed was the recognition that students test differently. So each
Yes.
assessment must be aligned to specific learning outcomes that's stated on the course outline. And then
Beautiful.
try to use different strategies that will tap into the different learning styles of students.
Yes.
And of course, with alignment, all of these things, the outcomes, activities, and assessments, they must be interconnected to be very coherent and to ensure that consistency within the course.
Excellent. Brilliant. Thumbs up, emojis, applause. Thank you, folks. This is excellent. Did I miss anyone or can we move on? I think we got everyone. And thank you for those comments in the chat as well. So we can all have a look at what our colleagues have placed in the chat. Remember, we're constructing learning together. So moving on quickly, we just chatted. We have another group activity, and this will take you a bit longer. I'm giving you 10 to 15 minutes. I will visit your rooms to see if you need the extra 5. Let's see how much we can do in 10 minutes so we get a little more time near the end we have 2 more group tasks to complete. Based on your knowledge and experience as educators in higher education, create one lower order and one higher order learning outcome for an agreed upon course. And who was it that spoke a little while ago about just looking at learning outcomes and about higher order and lower order? I think it was Karelma. So you guys are bang on target. You're cooking with gas. So I'm going to put you into breakout rooms again. But first, do you need a short break, like a 3-minute break to come back, or do you want to go right in? Let me know what is your preference, please. You need a short break. I saw a thumbs up.
Yes, a quick 2 minutes would be nice.
How many minutes?
2 minutes.
All right, let's take a 2-minute break. Water break, coffee break, or bathroom break, and let's be back. I'll give you 3 minutes. In 3 minutes, and we'll continue.
Hello?
Hi everyone, are we back? Are
Yes.
we all back? If we're all back, just give me a thumbs up. Nice.
Yeah.
I think we had someone else joining a while ago. Ah, that was a huge explosive thumbs up. Nice. All right. So I'm going to put you into the breakout rooms now. Based on your knowledge, this is a task based on your knowledge and experience as educators in higher education. Create one lower order and one higher order learning outcome for an agreed upon course. Do you have any questions about this task? Do you need any clarification? All right. So I'm going to create breakout rooms again. I'm going to assign you automatically, and
Are we going to the same rooms or different ones?
I'm going to open all the rooms now. I'm going to create fewer rooms, just 3 rooms, not 6. So I'm going to okay, I'm going to reassign to 3 rooms only, and I'll be able to do that in the next 20 seconds. Eleven, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. So I'm going to recreate the breakout rooms now. Reduce the number to 3, and I'm recreating now, and I'm opening them now. Now we need everyone joining one of the breakout rooms. resume the recording. Yes. Any feedback from your colleagues? What do you think about their lower order and higher order learning outcomes?
I would say that the appropriate verbs were used in terms of,
Yes.
to capture that level, each level.
All right. Okay. Good. So they used list for lower order. They used apply for higher order. Beautiful. Let's move on to the next group. Room 3 would have been, let me see who was in room 3. We had Deborah, Liana, Marla, and Nagamutu. Let's hear what you discussed, what you created.
Okay, so I'll jump in. We didn't really designate anyone to speak, and then two of us came up with outcomes, one lower order and one higher order. So I'll speak to the lower order. And the course that we would have agreed upon would have been marketing. And we would have said that for the lower order outcome, we went with identify the major components of a marketing plan and describe their functions. So that would have been a lower order. I think Deborah would have came up with the higher order, but I didn't take a note of it. So I don't know if Deborah can quickly share it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for sharing the lower order.
Welcome.
Identifies the main verb used.
And thank you, Liana, for throwing me under the bus.
She knows you're capable.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry. It's just I didn't make note of it, so I really can't.
No, I'm just pulling your leg, love. Don't worry. Right. So we would have said that the higher learning order experience would have been to take what was learned in the lower order and create a marketing protocol, a marketing program for maybe an event happening on the campus, and have the students run that marketing program that they would have created.
Ah, okay. So if they're running it, they're implementing.
Yeah.
They're
So
applying the principles learned so you could actually extract 2 higher order learning outcomes from that. All right.
Exactly.
Okay, lovely. Let's show appreciation. Well done. And let's move on. I'm enjoying working with you all. Dr. Nagamutu, did you want to add anything?
No, I'm a mister, but
Oh, you're Mr.
yes, Nagamutu.
Okay.
No, I agree with them in terms of the verbs used.
Okay.
We distinguish based on Bloom's taxonomy.
Yes. Oh,
orders.
thank you. You see why it is important to have you speak? Thank you for mentioning Bloom's. We're going to talk a little bit about it as we move along. I'm fascinated by your name. How do you pronounce your surname?
Arumugadasan.
So it is of Indian origin?
Actually, I'm from Sri Lanka.
Oh, from Sri Lanka.
Yes, but that's why my name is so long, so everybody calls me Aru, the first 3 letters of my surname.
Aru. Okay, it is
Aru, yes.
really interesting. I met someone from Sri Lanka in Paris 2 years ago. So I'm very happy to meet someone from Sri Lanka again here in today's session. A very nice gentleman.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
He's very hospitable. Maybe one day I will look for a conference in Sri Lanka.
Well, Sri Lanka is improving nowadays. It was in bad state, but now it's getting better.
Okay,
Well, I have been in Trinidad from a long time ago, 1983, in fact.
Really? So you're an honorary Trini. So happy to have you here. All right, thank you. So folks, let's move on. Are you still seeing the presentation still?
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you. So let's move on. Thank you for engaging in that activity. I'm trying to advance this slide. Okay, look at this slide now. Now remember, learning outcomes, we are doing a quick review. It's not a writing learning outcomes webinar, but because learning outcomes form the bedrock or the foundation of constructive alignment, we need to just ensure that we're all on the same page of understanding and practice. So the SMART acronym, our learning outcomes, should be specific. As we go through this, look back at what you created and use it as a checklist. Is your learning outcome, or are the 2 learning outcomes you just created specific? Have they been stated clearly? Are they measurable? Can they be measured through assessment and evaluation? Are they achievable? Is the level of learning achievable in 1 semester? Are your learning outcomes relevant? Are they relevant in relation to the program or the subject description and the field or the discipline? And are they time-bound or time-limited? In that, can they be achieved within the time available in the semester? Now, here at the CETL, a lot of programs and courses have to go through CETL review and issue of approval memo for overall final approval at undergrad or at ACWAC level or at graduate level. And often we see some learning outcomes that are really lofty, but then when we consider that the body of work allocated and aligned to that learning outcome it could cover 3 semesters or a whole year, we often have to ask persons to revisit the content and to look at the learning outcome again and see how practical it is given the particular time frame within the context of a particular semester. And Aru just reminded us that the taxonomy, Bloom's taxonomy, is also very important and helpful for the development of learning outcomes. And remember, the revised taxonomy, as creating at the top creativity, is of the utmost importance, especially in the digital age. Remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and we can go online and check the range of verbs that would correspond with each level of Bloom's cognitive taxonomy. So we have to remember the taxonomy. This method I've also found to be useful. Take a screenshot of this if you can, or take a pic of it. You will need it as we move along. And let's use it as an evaluative tool right now. Look at the 2 learning outcomes you just created and see whether or not it aligns to what is here. So let's look at this. It's color-coded to help us evaluate. After this segment, participants are the audience, will be able to, or students will be able to. So each of your learning outcomes, prefaced by, at the end of this course, students will be able to, you have already satisfied the A in the ABCD method. Right. That's the behavior. The behavior is a verb that is measurable. Remember the SMART acronym, and it is a verb that you will find aligned to Bloom's taxonomy as well. So participants will be able to write clear. That's the degree that conditions the quality of the writing. They'll be able to write clear learning objectives using the ABCD method is the condition. Now, often people will simply stop with these 2, write clear learning objectives. And we'd often let that pass because it's measurable. But including the condition makes it more specific and clarifies the assessment, the level and quality and type of assessment. So A, B, C, D, when we write our learning outcomes, we need to ensure that we have all of these components. So I'm going to ask us now to just pause, reflect, evaluate. Do we need to revise the learning outcomes that we just created in our groups? So let's unmute our mics, one person from each group, and let's discuss briefly whether or not you think the learning outcomes you just created need a little tweaking to bring it into alignment with the ABCD method or template. Or you can consider it a checklist too. So let's hear what you think in your groups.
Okay, so hi again. I am
Hi,
Tanya, representing Group 2. So our
great.
learning outcome, the lower order, would have been at
Mm-hmm.
the end. Well, at the end of the program, participants will be able to, and we said, list the theories that guide practice in education.
Yes.
Right. So in that context, there, the audience would be the participants. Right.
Good.
The particular behavior would
Yes.
be to list.
Right.
Right. Which is in alignment with the Bloom taxonomy.
Yes.
All right. Degree theories that guide practice in education, would that be
Mm-hmm.
considered the condition? The condition would be
Theories. They're listing theories. So
that
that's like
guide.
writing
Mhm.
clear learning objectives. Yes. Theories
Right.
that guide, right?
And practice in education.
That theories that guide practice in education. So where do you have the, would you say, okay, we have the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Do we
Yeah,
have the degree?
the degree. Let me see. Perhaps we are missing that there.
And that's something you can discuss when you go into your groups
Okay,
again.
sure.
All right. And yeah, so what you have sounds good, but you need to consider whether or not you could tweak it further so that you can check off each of the 4 items here. All right. So thank you for sharing that. Let's hear the other group. Is there anything else you can do to your learning outcomes in light of this ABCD method?
I was looking at the lower order outcome we created for the marketing course.
Yes.
And I was just thinking that could the condition be implied, meaning that okay, so let me state the outcome again. Identify the major components of a marketing plan and describe their functions. So, okay, student participants will be able to identify the major components. So the participants are the audience. The participants will be able to identify the major components.
Right.
So the behavior is them
We have the
identifying.
measurable verb, yes.
Right.
You can create an assessment that requires them to identify. Yes.
The major components of a marketing plan and describe their functions.
Now, and describe their functions introduces another measurable verb. And the recommendation is that we only use one verb per learning outcome. So I'm glad you're sharing that so that everyone can remember that it's just one.
Yes,
so that
while dissecting it now,
one measurable verb. So that you now just have to add degree and condition. But that's something you can discuss when you get back into your groups to refine the learning outcomes. But you have all made a good start. Okay? All right, let's move on. So we just had a break. Can we move on? Can we move on?
Yes, I
Yeah,
think
sure.
so.
All right, okay. So we're talking about what? Everybody unmute your mics now and shout constructive alignment at the same time after 3, 2, 3.
Constructive
Constructive alignment.
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 Thank you. So if anybody is feeling a little sleepy, we're all awake now. All right. So constructive alignment invites us as lecturers, as educators, as webinar facilitators to move from simply covering content to intentionally designing learning. To doing what? Intentionally designing learning. And again, we see this graphic. Learning outcomes aligned to learning activities, aligned to assessments. One doesn't come without the other. All right? We usually start off here, learning outcomes. That's the foundation. And the building blocks, the connection would be, these are the pillars. Learning activities, assessments. Let's move on. Any questions before we move on? Okay, so let's look very quickly now at the importance of aligning learning outcomes to instructional activities. Look at some points. Constructive alignment, which is aligning learning outcomes and instructional activities and assessments. Now, some persons include assessments as a subset of instructional activities. I have made a distinction for the purpose of highlighting the dynamic between the recursive dynamic among the three components. So constructive alignment is important because it has become a cornerstone of outcomes-based education. You in your own time could go and check the literature. It is used in curriculum design, course evaluation, and accreditation processes worldwide. And I don't remember who it was, but someone alluded to the world of work, the extensions, connections, making connections to the real world when you spoke earlier about your understanding about learning outcomes. Constructive alignment is also important because it has promoted learner-centered and transparent educational practices. And I think you have all alluded to that already in our discussions. Constructive alignment enhances student experience. It can be adapted to different educational contexts, and it is an iterative process that facilitates refinement of learning outcomes, teaching, learning and assessment strategies, and reflection. Constructive alignment is also important because alignment is key to effective teaching and learning. And I think it was Karelma who spoke about the importance of learning outcomes being aligned and how students can be impacted. Constructive alignment is important as well because it is based on well-established educational theories. We don't have time to delve into those, but you can do your own reading. It's supported by empirical research, and constructive alignment enhances both teaching quality and student success. At the end of the day, we want persons who graduate from the university to be able to say, wow, my experience as a student during my class sessions, my courses was amazing. Everything was aligned. Everything was on point. Everything made sense. Assessments had full validity. I could make sense and make connections with the real world. What every lecturer promised in the course outline to deliver by way of content made sense. Everything was aligned. It was aligned to the overarching program goals. The strategies used made sense as well in terms of what the instructor or the lecturer or the facilitator promised would be the learning that I would walk away with at the end of the course. Everything connected and everything made sense. So constructive alignment, let's look at this graphic. It's simply saying what went before and asking us to reflect and think. What can students achieve by the end of your lesson? Those are the learning outcomes, these knowledge, skills, and attitudes, depending on the particular course or program. What learning activities can help students achieve these outcomes? Those are the instructional activities. And how do you know if a student has achieved these outcomes? The assessment must also be relevant to the activities and the outcomes. So let's look at a few principles of constructive alignment. Creation of clear learning outcomes. That's consider the learning outcomes, the foundation, the bedrock. Alignment of teaching activities, alignment of assessment tasks, promotion of active and deep learning, focus on student-centered learning, and regular review and adjustment. Now, we said it's an iterative process. So we're continually reviewing, we're tweaking, we just looked at the learning outcomes we created, and we realized when we look at them against the ABCD method, that we could go back and revise those. So the process is ongoing. So the construction analogy, again, when alignment matters. Constructive alignment in education can be compared, as we said before, we want to reiterate, we want to stress this. It can be compared to alignment in construction and engineering. A building depends on the proper alignment of its foundation, support structures, and final design. If one component is poorly aligned, the entire structure becomes unstable. So in construction, in the physical world, when alignment fails, we said that foundations shift, walls crack, measurements become inaccurate, structures become unsafe. The final product does not match the design intention, and even if expensive materials are used, poor alignment compromises the entire project. Similarly, in higher education, that's our world, our context, learning outcomes are the blueprint. Instructional activities are the construction process. Assessment is the inspection that determines whether the structure is safe and functional. Now, if the blueprint says one thing, the builders, that's us, construct something else. And the inspectors evaluate another feature that was not in the blueprint. The building is likely to fail. Teaching and learning has been severely compromised. I need to go back one. So the same occurs in teaching. For example, a learning outcome may require students to critically evaluate research. But the instructional activity may only involve listening to lectures, but we want them to critically evaluate. Now, lectures have their place. They are valuable. But then if the assessment as well only tests memorization of facts through multiple choice questions, are students being prepared or assessed for the intended level of learning, which is to critically evaluate? Yes or no? Let me see what you put in the chat. Yes or no? Let me see your response in the chat. No. All right. So they're to critically evaluate, but they're only listening to lectures. That's the instructional activity. And the assessment is testing memorization. Some say yes, some say they're not prepared. All right. So what's the result? Educational instability, in the same way that we would have structural instability with a building, a tower that's being constructed. If there are faulty alignments and faulty materials used. So in education, what's the result of misalignment? Unclear expectations. So I'm going back. Oh dear. Yes, I am going back. Right, I am just going back one. Right. So the same, I'm going back. Ooh, I keep that tab. I'm going back to that one before. Right. So that's the blueprint, right? We want them to develop the skill of critical evaluation. The instructional activity only involved listening to lectures. And the assessment was multiple choice question that tested memorization of facts that they simply crammed and regurgitated. Do they become critical thinkers and evaluators through this instructional activity and this type of assessment? So that is what this is speaking to. Right. The result is educational instability, unclear expectations, surface learning, student disengagement, poor assessment validity, inconsistent achievement of program goals. Just as structural misalignment can lead to cracks, instability, and collapse in a building, pedagogical misalignment weakens the integrity of learning. I'm going to repeat that for myself as well. Just as structural misalignment can lead to cracks, instability, and collapse in a building, pedagogical misalignment weakens the integrity of learning. It's that serious. This thing about aligning learning outcomes is of the utmost importance to the way in which we deliver courses, deliver instruction. So let's move on. I almost said, could I have an amen? I can't see you laughing at my attempt at a joke. I'm only seeing Aru smiling. Aru, thanks for enabling your camera. I know everyone's not able to, but as much as you are able to, enable your camera. Okay, thanks, Tanya. All right. Okay, so let's have a look at this. I'm going to ask Aru to read the first line. I'm going to ask Marla to read the second, and I'm going to ask Liana to read the third set of text in these bands, please. What if the components of a course are misaligned? So Aru, could you read, please? You have to unmute Aru. Unmute your mic. Aru, you have to unmute your mic. We can't hear you as yet. Thank
Sorry.
you. That's okay.
If assessments are misaligned with learning objectives or instructional strategies, it can undermine both the student motivation and learning.
Thank you. Consider these two, yes, scenarios. Thank you. Next, I think I had asked Marla.
Yes. Your objectives is for students to learn to apply analytical skills, but your assessment measures only factual recall. Consequently, students hone their analytical skills and are frustrated that the exam does not measure what they learned.
Thank you. And Liana?
Your assessment measures students' ability to compare and critique arguments of different authors, but your instructional strategies focus entirely on summarizing the arguments of different authors. Consequently, students do not learn or practice the skills of comparison and evaluation that will be assessed.
So you're seeing there the mismatch, the misalignment. The one above says the skill that students need to develop is to as analysis, but the assessment only measures factual recall. And as Aru pointed us earlier, there's Bloom's taxonomy. Factual recall is on the lower level, it's lower order thinking, skill, and competence. Analysis is higher order. So how could the assessment not measure analysis, analytical skills? And the one at the bottom, students need to compare, they need to critique. Even though those two verbs are put side by side, remember they would form two different learning outcomes. We don't put two verbs together for a learning outcome. Otherwise, measurement becomes convoluted. Okay, and we want to always ensure that we have checked off the SMART checklist. So compare and critique, but just to summarize, no, misalignment. So in higher education, when alignment fails in teaching and learning, students focus on the wrong skills. Assessments test unintended knowledge. Activities do not prepare students adequately. Lecturers receive unreliable evidence of learning. Program standards weaken. This is a repeat of what went earlier, but repetition is important for retention. Students may pass assessments without achieving the intended competencies. Let's look at this graphic. The alignment analogy we are sustaining once again. Let's look at the construction. We have the blueprint, which is the design goals. We have the construction or building process, and then we have the inspection, that's the safety check. So there's alignment. When there's alignment among all three components, the building is strong, the building is stable. Educational alignment then involves aligning learning outcomes to learning activities to assessments. What students should achieve would be aligned to how they learn and how the learning is measured. When that happens, we have meaningful student learning. So let's pause, let's reflect, let's evaluate. Consider one course that you currently teach. Are your assessments measuring the learning outcomes you intend? Do your learning activities prepare students for assessment success, or are they frustrating students? Are students practicing the same level of thinking that is expected in the assessment? Where might there be structural cracks in your course design? Now I'm going to ask each one of you to ponder a while, to reflect on this very quickly. And you don't have to name the course, but I want you to respond to each of these questions or these reflective prompts quickly in the Zoom chat. So you can simply use yes or no. They are divergent question, not divergent, convergent questions. And the last one asks you to just elaborate a bit. So I want everyone for a minute just responding quickly in the chat to these reflective prompts. So let's go with the responses to the first one. Everybody responding yes or no, you're writing in the chat. Are your assessments measuring the intended learning outcomes? Yes or no? We have maybe, okay, one maybe yes, no yes. All right, yes, okay. Let's go with the second reflective prompt. Do your learning activities prepare students to succeed in the assessments? Yes or no? Let's all write in the, okay, not sure. Good. Thank you for your honest, critical reflection. Okay, yes, but the program needs more time. So we have some contextual factors impacting on what you do. Where might there be structural, the third one. Are students practicing the same level of thinking that is expected in the assessments? Yes or no? Third one, okay. No, no, interesting. No, but this may be due to lack of engagement with essential course material. So we have some extenuating factors there. For some parts, yes. All right. And the fourth question, reflective prompt. Where might there be structural cracks in your course design? Is it at the level of the learning outcomes? Is it at the level of the instructional activities? Is it at the level of assessments? So I need everyone to respond to this one in the chat as well. So where might there be structural cracks in your course design? Instructional activities, Molly is saying that you might need to find new ways to get students to engage with materials provided for learning. So we're engaging in critical reflection on our practice, which is what we all ought to do repeatedly in a consistent manner. Assessments, okay, not much of problems, okay, good. So critical reflection says, all right, it's okay. So I need to revamp the assessment activities, all right. So we're seeing how when we look through a critical lens at our course design, we need to tweak. Some things are good, some things need tweaking to tighten it, to ensure that there's constructive alignment. Thanks for your responsive, folks. Karelma says, instructional activities need to be tweaked. Participants need more time for in-course activities and formative assessment to prepare them sufficiently for summative assessments. All right, beautiful. Thanks for sharing that, folks. So we were chatting. Again, constructive alignment invites us to move from simply covering content to intentionally designing learning. And here's the graphic again. Let's have a look at it again. Learning outcomes connected to instructional activities, connected to assessments, being all appropriate, fit for purpose. What can students achieve by the end of each lesson, by the end of the course? What instructional activities can help them achieve those particular learning outcomes? And how do we know if a student has achieved these outcomes? So let's look briefly or quickly at, quickly at aligning learning outcomes to instructional activities, the how. 1, we describe the intended learning outcome for the unit or the course using one verb. Forget that or at most two. It's one verb, not two. The ILO or the intended learning outcome denotes how the content or topics are to deal with and are to be dealt with, and in what context. Create a learning environment using teaching or learning activities that require students to engage each verb. And we saw in the examples or the non-examples of how misalignment occurred. In this way, the activity nominated in the intended learning objective or outcome, some use the terms interchangeably. There are distinctions to be made, however. The learning outcome is activated and use assessment tasks that also contain the verb used in the intended learning outcome, thus enabling one with the help of predetermined, thus enabling us to help with that's all messed up. That needs some editing. In alignment with the rubrics, we are able to judge how well student performances meet the criteria, and we are able to transform these judgments into final grades. So let's look at this graphic again. Learning outcomes are explicit and concise statements of what students will know, what students will be able to do, and value at the end of an educational experience. We also have other taxonomies like Krathwohl's. The affective domain is of the utmost importance as well. So we need to be mindful of that as well. Activities, the instructional activities are activities designed to facilitate student learning. For example, and someone mentioned earlier in her expectations that she wanted to see find out what other strategies might be useful. Lectures, discussions, labs, case-based learning, role play, improvisation, group work, projects, quizzes, simulations. So we have different kinds of teaching methods and a range of strategies within those methods that we can employ appropriately. And assessments, for example, the traditional multiple choice, essays, exams, short answers, short responses, structured responses, or authentic forms of assessment, which could be portfolios, debates, performance tasks, presentations, rubrics, feedback, so that their range that we can use to engage students as we ensure constructive alignment. Now, what do we want students to know when they leave the course? What kinds of tasks will reveal whether or not they achieve the learning outcomes? And what kinds of activities in and out of class will reinforce the learning outcomes and prepare students for their assessments? These are the principles again, okay, that we're stressing. Bloom's taxonomy. Here are some instructional activities aligned to Bloom's taxonomy. So at the lowest level of remembering, maybe some quizzes and flashcards. At the level of understanding, they could summarize readings. At the application level, we can ask them to solve problems or to do a simulation. We can ask them to analyze using case studies and discussions. We can have them evaluate through peer review, through debates. And we can ask them to design a project or design or create a presentation which takes them to the highest level of Bloom's taxonomy, and no course should not include, or no list of learning outcomes for any course of instruction should omit the highest level of the taxonomy. That's of the utmost importance. So let's practice. Here's an example of a learning outcome. Evaluate the credibility of online sources. Now, we could expand this to fit the ABCD checklist, but we're dealing with this basic one for now. The instructional activity is small group analysis of websites. Traditional assessment is short answer quiz on source credibility criteria. The authentic assessment is students presenting findings from a media evaluation, and the rubric element would be criteria for credibility. For example, the currency of the information, the authorship, if there's any bias, because we want them to leave with the skill of being able to evaluate the credibility of online sources. Do we see the alignment working here? Yes or no? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Do we see the alignment working in this example? Practical alignment strategy. Here's your task now. Time is going quickly. How many of you would be able to remain until 12:30? Is there anyone who would not be able to remain, or do you want to wrap up at, if you want us to wrap up at 12, we will cut the group task in half, the time allocated, and you can't get it done in 10 minutes, sir. What would you like us to do? Okay, Tanya has to leave at 12. So can we see what we can do in 10 minutes? So I'm putting you into groups again and into breakout rooms. All right, okay. So we will wrap up at 12 as advertised. Using your group's 2 learning outcomes, brainstorm, or let's use the 1 higher order. Let's not use 2. We're halving the time on task, so we're halving the task. Using your group's higher order learning outcome, brainstorm some appropriate instructional activities and assessments. So let's do that now using just one of your learning outcomes. Should I give you the choice of whether or not to use upper level or lower order? You decide. I'll be fine with it. Okay? You're doing amazingly. So you have autonomy to select the learning outcome you want to do. So I'm going to put you into breakout rooms for, I think we could do this in even 5 to 7 minutes, you know. You all think so? 2 breakout rooms.
Yes.
Yes. So let's do the breakout rooms. I'm opening them again. We'll keep the same people in the rooms. And I'll check you at 5 minutes to see if we can regroup in the main room.
capstone project, where
Yes.
they can demonstrate their knowledge acquired, the use of the knowledge through application and developing the marketing plan. And
Yes.
as part of the instructional activities, we will have ongoing supervision of the students to monitor their progress and to sort of give them feedback. And the students at
Yes.
the end of the semester would have to turn in their project, which includes all components of everything that they would have used to build the project.
Yes.
And we had discussed possibly, because I think Deborah actually uses this in one of her courses, have them present their projects and possibly consider bringing in external experts in the field to provide feedback at the end of it for the students.
Wow, that's really comprehensive. And what I'm noting there while you were speaking is that you have also discussed providing the students with supports, with scaffolds to effectively complete the particular assignment. And like the other team, you also considered including authentic forms of assessment and making connections to the real world. The live event is really amazing. So thank you, both groups. Let's show appreciation. Let's get those emojis going for both teams. Excellent, excellent, and brilliant. So now in the few minutes we have remaining, I have noted that Mr. Garcia, Sattles ETL, has put the link for today's workshop experience survey in the chat. And please do fill that out and submit it. We really do need the feedback for our analytics, for our data collection. That's very important for us. We have to report. And your final task is, and tell me whether or not you could do it in about 2 minutes or so. This is the task. Summarize the main points discussed today in today's workshop, and prepare, let's say a 30-second creative, culturally relevant presentation to present this summary. It could be lyrical, poetic, graphic, dramatic, or digital. You may also use AI and declare such. Now, some persons have to leave at 12. So we will decide together if you want to do this individually and drop it in the chat, and also just it could be a 2-line, a 4-line limerick. It could be a graphic. It could be something dramatic. You could say something in dialect. You could rap something for just 30 seconds as if you're doing an ad, a summary in 30 seconds or 1-minute summary in any way that you choose. Would you like to go into your groups again, or would you simply like to put something in the chat and also include how you feel at the end of this workshop today in light of, combine the two things, how you feel at the end of the workshop in light of the expectations you shared at the start, and find a creative way to summarize some of the main points. Or if you learned something new, you can mention that. So how do you want us to do it? You just put something in the chat, or do you simply unmute and do it, which you might prefer to do very quickly? We can put it in the chat because it helps the thinking process. The chat works. So let's go with the chat. So I know you can all think very fast on your feet. So let's do that now. So I see one comment in the chat so far. Let's have the others. I know you're busy writing. I hope so. And then we can just share everyone's quick contribution quickly. Nice. I'm seeing that Nagamutu said I learned some excellent details to my current thinking. Beautiful. Thank you. Dr. Ibrahim says objectives must align with learning objectives and the two features must be reflected in the assessment. I like how you put that. And everything must be guided by Bloom's cognitive taxonomy. Beautiful. Let's see the others and let's see if somebody could give us a little rap, a little chutney, a little what? Soca, a little poem, a little limerick. Marla says, ensure within course consistency. Wow. By linking learning outcomes, instructional activities, and assessments to enhance student engagement and learning experience and support achievement of course objectives. Ah, nice. Let's see the others. There are how many of us? There are a few more to come, about 4 more. Persons are writing. Let's see if someone will come up with a short poem on the spot. Oh, first comes Bloom, A Ladder to the Sky, where learners climb knowing to asking why. From remembering facts to creating anew, it charts the heights that learning can pursue. Then comes the ABCD way, clear and bright, giving outcomes, purpose, focus, and sight. Who will learn what they'll do, under what condition, and how well they'll perform with measured precision. Finally, constructive alignment takes its place, weaving each element with deliberate grace. Outcomes, teaching, and assessment unite, moving together toward the same learning light. AI was used to craft this poetic summary. Laugh out loud. You're not easy. Oh gosh, she caused me to lapse into, this is Liana, into local parlance. You're not easy. Beautiful. I was wondering, but how come she penned this thing so fast? So thank you for acknowledging the aid of AI. But what you, your prompt engineering was spot on. Beautiful. Oh, you're making me smile. Yes, love this, love this. Deborah says, there once was a lecturer of culture to find out how best can she lecture for students to be sure of what they are understanding and learning here. So she did some activities with what? Some activities with pretty smart people and listened to Juliet's instructions. And now you see she knows her ABCDs and at the end has plenty actual tools to help her. You're not easy. This is amazing. This is amazing. Any others as we wrap up? So I really hope you found this session helpful. If anyone is willing to unmute, I know 1 or 2 people had to leave. It is now 12:02. I just want to say how much I enjoyed working along with you, facilitating this session. I also learned some things from you. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate the time you took to join us today. Don't be strangers. We are here. You can always reach out to us at the CETL. I'd like to thank my colleagues who have supported this session as well. Thank you so much. And do we have any more things in the chat? You've done amazing. Thanks, Liana. Please unmute and remember to copy the link from the chat for the experience survey. I'm going to copy and post it again that our research officer, Mr. Garcia, has posted. I'm going to share it again so you can copy it and ensure that you complete the survey. It's short, it's not long, but we really need you to do it. Thank you once again. Feel free to unmute. As you leave, make a comment as you go. I love hearing your voices, and thank you so much for joining and engaging. I wish you a wonderful rest of the week. Keep looking out and registering for CETL workshops, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank,
you.
thank you so much, Dr. Jones.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Thank you. You're welcome.